My name is Margaret Hale. It has been 6 years, 2 months, and 17 days since my little girl died. 6 years since the world turned upside down, and the only thing that kept me standing was the cold, hard fact that I was still breathing and she was not. 6 years since I made sure the people who pushed her to do it went to the dark place with her. I am not proud. Being proud is for people who have not lost everything. I am not sorry either. Being sorry is a slow, heavy hurt that does not ask you to do anything. I am just tired. Tired of the quiet that is not quiet, but an empty space where her happy laugh used to be. Tired of the heavy feeling of the bad things I have done, but more tired of thinking about the things I did not do. Lily was 14, a small, bright 14. She had many tiny brown spots on her nose that only came out in the summer sun. Her hair was the color of dark honey. She was a girl of small, nice habits. Every morning when she stood by the mirror in the bathroom, brushing her long hair with care, she would sing a little song. It was not a real song, just a small, happy sound that would get stuck in your head, a sound of simple, easy joy. That is the sound I hear now, when the house is too quiet. It is the ghost of a sound, a memory that feels like a missing arm, and it is the only thing that stops the quiet from eating me up. The bad treatment started slowly, like a slow, bad sickness. It was not the rough pushing and hitting from my school days. This was on the computer, sharp, and it never stopped. It began with mean words on her photo page, not just ugly, but special, mean words about her face. Did she use a filter to hide the holes in her face? Her legs looked like 2 bags of mashed potatoes. Then came the changed photos. They took a nice picture of her at the beach, in a simple swimming suit, and put her face onto very bad, grown-up pictures. They shared these pictures in a secret chat group. It was not secret enough because one of the girls, a quiet, pale girl named Melissa Crane, sent a picture of the chat screen to Lily by mistake. Lily came to me. Her face looked like a mask of shame and fear. Her eyes, which were usually so bright, were dark with tears she could not cry. She showed me the pictures. Her hands were shaking so much she could barely hold the phone. The worst part was not the pictures. It was the words under them, the easy, mean laughing of the other kids. I did everything I could. I called the school. I talked to Principal Davies, a man who seemed to care most about the school's good name. "It's kid stuff, Mrs. Hale," he said, sitting back in his big chair, looking like he did not care. "Kids are mean. It's a short time. We talked to the students who did it. We gave them a warning." A warning. As if saying a few words could make the bad pictures unseen, or the mean laughing unheard. I went to the police. Officer Rourke, a young man with tired eyes, wrote down what I said. "Being mean on the internet is hard, ma'am. We can write a complaint, but it is hard to find every fake account. My advice, block the accounts, close the apps, go away from them." Go away. As if meanness goes away when you close an app. As if the answer to being hunted is to stop being seen in public. But the mean treatment did not stop. They moved from the computer to the real world. They would leave notes in her locker, hand-drawn pictures of her hanging from a rope, or small bags of white powder with the words mashed potatoes on them. One day, Chloe Tanner, the main mean girl, the one who planned it all, trapped Lily in the hallway. Chloe did not shout. She did not need to. She just spoke in a low, bad whisper, loud enough for the other kids to hear, but too quiet for a teacher to stop. "You know, Lily," Chloe said, her voice sounding fake and worried, "it's not just the pictures, it's your smell. You smell like you are begging for help, like a wet dog that no one wants to pet. Go home and take a shower, you sad little weirdo." The crowd laughed. Evan Pierce, the boy who would later film her shame, caught the whole thing on his phone. The camera was close on Lily's face as the color left it. Lily stopped singing her little song. She stopped eating. She started wearing long shirts, even when it was hot in August. She walked with her shoulders bent, trying to make herself small so no one would see her. The light in her eyes went out, replaced by a deep, empty fear. She was like a ghost long before she died. The morning I found her was a Tuesday. I remember the day, December 24th, Christmas Eve. The house was quiet. The air smelled strongly of pine trees and the fear that had become my friend. I knocked on her door at 8:00 a.m. "Lily, sweetheart, time to wake up." No answer. I knocked again, harder. "Lily, I am coming in." The door was locked. That was strange. She never locked her door. Then I heard the sound, the steady, strong flow of water. The bathtub tap was running. A cold, stopping fear grabbed me. I hit my shoulder against the cheap wood of the door once, twice. The wood broke on the third hit, and I fell into the room. The bathroom door was open a little. Steam rolled out. It smelled a little of the lavender bath soap I had bought her, hopping to give her a moment of peace. She was in the tub. The water, a sick, thin pink color, was running over the white edge, spilling onto the floor in a growing pool. Lily was under the water from her waist down. Her top half was leaning against the back of the tub, her head resting on the cold tile wall. Her arms were floating on top of the water. They were pale and very white against the red clouds spreading out from them. The cuts, they were not light scratches. They were deep, planned cuts made into the soft skin of her inner wrists. The sharp thing, a cheap razor I kept in the shower basket, lay dropped on the edge of the tub. It had a shiny red smear of blood on the plastic handle. I remember thinking, with a cold, clear thought that still scares me, that the water was too warm. She had wanted to be comfortable. Her eyes were half closed. Her long, dark eyelashes rested on her cheeks. They were not fully shut, though. They were open just enough to show a small white line, like she had almost made it to a soft place, but was caught, hanging, between this world and the next. I put my hands into the water. I did not care about the slick, warm thickness of her blood. I grabbed her shoulders and pulled her soft body out of the tub. I fell onto the wet floor. The sound of her body hitting the tile was a low, wet bump that sounded like the last beat of my own heart. I put my ear to her chest. Nothing. I tried to find a pulse in her neck and her wrist, the wrist that was now ruined. I screamed her name. "Lily, Lily, please." I tried to wake her, to put her spirit back into her body. I pushed down on her chest, breathing my useless breath into her cold lungs. Until the doctors came and gently pulled me away. Their faces were sad, their movements slow. The note was on the counter, hidden under a bottle of pain pills. It was written in her neat, careful writing. The paper was a little wet from the steam. I just wanted them to stop. She was gone before I could call her name a second time. She was gone the moment she made her choice, and I was left behind, a person who lived through a fight I did not know I was in. After the funeral, I did not talk for many weeks. The house was like a tomb. Everything was a sad memory of a life that was stopped too soon. I sat in her room. The air was full of her smell, a mix of lavender, cheap hairspray, and the faint metal smell of blood that I could never fully wash from my mind. I smelled her pillow every night, pushing my face into the cloth until it stopped smelling like her. Then it just smelled like soap and dust. The sadness was a real thing, a crushing weight that held me to the bed. I did not want to live in a world that let this happen, a world that let my daughter be killed by the easy meanness of children. Then one night, about a month after we buried her, the quiet became too much to bear. I needed it to stop. I needed the little song to stop, the memory of the pink water to stop, the heavy weight to stop. I went to the medicine cabinet. I did not count. I just started eating every pill. Every pill, Tylenol, pain pills, sleep pills, old sick pills. I washed it all down with a bottle of cheap red wine I found in the back of the kitchen. The wine tasted bad. The pills tasted like chalk and bad choices. I lay down on the cold kitchen floor. I waited for the dark to take me. I waited for the quiet Lily had found. I remember the room spinning, the floor moving, and then a deep, soft blackness. But I woke up. I woke up to the clean white of a hospital room. The constant, steady beep, beep, beep of a machine checking my heart, a sound that felt like a never-ending metal blame. My stomach was empty. My throat burned. My head hurt with the slow, dull pain of 1,000 tiny hammers. A nurse, a nice woman with tired eyes and a name tag that said Sarah, stood over me, fixing the clear liquid tube in my arm. "You are lucky," she said. Her voice was low and calm. "Your neighbor found you. We got you here in time. You have been asleep for almost 2 days." I remember thinking, with a cold, clear thought that cut through the drug fog, "No, I am cursed. Cursed to live, cursed to remember, cursed to be the one who did not die." I stayed in the mental hospital for 1 week. Group talks, boring food, and long, useless talks with doctors who tried to put a name on my sadness and give me medicine for my anger. They talked about ways to feel better, about moving ahead, about finding a reason. But the reason was gone. The reason was buried under 6 feet of cold dirt. It was in that clean, brown room, looking at the ceiling tiles, that the idea began to whisper. It was not a sudden bright thought, but a slow, cold forming of a goal. Maybe if the world, shown by the 3 mean builders of her pain, had taken her, the world could pay what it owed. Not with money, not with jail time, but with the only thing that mattered, a fair trade. I left the hospital a different woman. The sadness was still there, but it was no longer a heavy weight. It was a hot fire. The anger was no longer a wild storm. It was a clear plan. I started looking up things. Not sad help, but things like electric wires, fire points, water movement, and the exact speed needed to break a human body into pieces. I was no longer Margaret Hale, the sad mother. I was Margaret Hale, the bookkeeper of justice. Chloe Tanner, the main mean girl, the one who had planned the whole thing to make Lily feel small, the one who was very good at saying easy, painful, mean words. She had made Lily the fun show for the class, the joke for everyone, and she had done it all with a smile that never quite reached her cold, dead eyes. Chloe, at 20 years old, worked nights at a 24-hour tanning place called Sun-Kissed Bliss. The place always smelled like burnt plastic, cheap coconut oil, and the thin, chemical smell of air cleaner. It was a church for being pretty on the outside, a perfect, fake stage for her empty life. I spent 2 weeks watching the tanning place. I learned when the workers came and left, when the delivery trucks came, and where the security camera was. It was a fake, cheap camera. Most important, I learned about the building's insides. The box with the electric switches was in a small room you could get to from the back street. The air system was old and not taken care of. The tanning beds themselves were the key. They were strong, big machines. Their heating parts, if pushed past their safe limits, were perfect to start a fire. I got what I needed: a small, special set of screwdrivers, a pair of thin plastic gloves, and a bottle of strong, quick-to-burn liquid, a special paint thinner. On a cold Wednesday night, at 3:17 a.m., I slipped into the back street. The lock on the small room was a joke. I opened it easily with a simple metal tool. I went into the room. The air was hot and dusty. I found the main electric panel for the tanning beds. I did not cut the power. That would be too easy to see. Instead, I carefully went around the safety switch on the main wire that fed the beds. It was a careful, exact job. I needed a steady hand and full focus. I was not changing the power level, just taking away the part that would stop the machine from getting too hot. Next, I went into the tanning place itself. The air was heavy, still smelling of the day's fake heat. I went to Chloe's favorite bed, number 3. I used the screwdriver to loosen the air vent cover near the headrest. It was a small gap, almost impossible to see. Then, the liquid. I poured a small, controlled amount of the paint thinner into the gap. I let it drip down and turn into a gas around the wires and the plastic parts inside. It was not enough to blow up right away, but it was more than enough to make the air full of gas that could catch fire easily, just waiting for a spark. I slipped out the way I came, locking the small room behind me. I drove to a coffee shop nearby and waited. I ordered a black coffee. My hands were steady. My mind was like a blank, cold stone. At 4:45 a.m., the fire alarm screamed. I drove back, parking 3 blocks away. The whole building was burning. Flames were licking at the night sky. The air was thick with the smell of burning rubber and fake materials. The news report the next day said it was an electric problem made worse by bad air flow and the presence of liquids that catch fire easily used for cleaning. The police were confused. Chloe had been working late, finishing papers, and decided to take a quick, secret session in bed number 3. When the timer clicked, the machine sang too loud. The broken safety switch let the heating parts get too hot, making a spark. The gas from the liquid did the rest. I saw the picture on the local news website, not of the fire, but of what was left. The police had put yellow tape around the area. They said she was found near the door, but she had not made it out. The fire had been strong, focused, and fast. The heat had been so great that the body's shape was ruined. The official paper would use doctor words. Burned remains, degree burns. But the picture I saw, the one the fire chief let out by mistake, was a horror that no doctor words could explain. Chloe Tanner was turned into a scary statue. Her skin, where it was not completely burned away, was bubbly and black, pulled tight over the bone. Her body was stiff, curled into a fighting pose, the boxer's pose of someone who died from great heat, her hands raised to cover a face that was no longer a face. The heat had turned her flesh into something I could not call human, something that looked less like a person and more like a piece of meat left too long on a very hot grill. A dark, hard crust, broken open in places to show the smoking, pink-gray inside. Burned to a crisp, like steak. The thought was sick and wrong, but it was the only thing that brought a cold, hard feeling of getting what I wanted. I thought of her reaching for the door handle I had sealed shut with a tiny drop of glue before I left. I thought of the heat closing in on her like the laughing she once gave my daughter. Evan Pierce, the one who did not just watch, but helped. He filmed Lily's worst times, turning her shame into a joke on the internet with 10,000 views and 100,000 mean words. He was the killer on the computer. Evan, at 21, was a college student. He was proud and felt he deserved everything. He spent every weekend at Clearwater Lake, a huge, deep body of water far from the city, showing off on his new, costly water scooter. He loved the speed, the water spray, the feeling of being safe from all harm that he got from riding fast on the water. I went to the lake 1 week before I planned to go back. I found the place where he kept his water scooter, a smooth, red machine called the Predator. The safety was weak. They trusted the lake to be far away from people. I waited until a foggy, late hour of the night. I went onto the wooden dock. I had looked up the engine of a water scooter. The fuel pipe was simple. I used a small, thin pipe to take out a certain amount of gas. I put back a handful of fine, small sugar mixed with a little water, just enough to slowly, badly spoil the fuel line and the engine part. The sugar would not fully melt, but it would turn sticky and clog the engine when it got hot and needed to work its hardest. It was planned to fail when it mattered most, going very fast, far from the land. That Saturday, I watched from the far side, hidden by a group of sad-looking trees. The day was bright. The water was a bright, fake blue. Evan was there. He was loud and annoying with a group of friends. He made the engine of the Predator roar. He shouted something I could not hear and sped across the water. A white cloud of spray followed him. I watched him go farther and farther out, until he was a small, red spot far away. The sunset that night looked like blood on the water, a deep, strong orange mixing with the dark blue. I saw the spot slow down. He was turning, coming back. Then the engine coughed. A spitting, dying sound that I could hear a little across the quiet water. He tried to start it again. The engine turned once, twice, a sad, weak noise, then quiet.
He was a mile from the shore. The lake was known for its sudden, strong pulls under the water. I watched through a pair of glasses as he realized his bad luck. He started to paddle. Then he started to shout. His friends on the shore, drunk and not paying attention, did not hear him over their loud music. The waves, small at first, began to close around him. He fell from the seat into the cold, deep water. I watched him struggle for a long time. His first fear gave way to being tired. His wild movements became slower, more desperate. Finally, he went under. The water covered him. Only the red top of the Predator stayed floating as a marker. They found him 2 days later. The search team had almost stopped looking. He had been pushed by the water against a thick patch of weeds on the other side of the lake. He was caught in the mess of roots and mud. The news reports called him a sad loss, a victim of a strange engine failure. I read the long police report, which I got by making a fake online person and paying a small bribe. It was a cold, clear paper about how his body was falling apart. 2 days in the cold water had done its job. Evan Pierce was no longer the proud, tanned boy from the dock. His body was horribly swollen, big and fat from the gases of rotting. His skin, which was once tan, was now a mixed, sick blue-grey colour, the colour of bad meat. His eyes were wide open, cloudy and dull, looking up at the sky without seeing. The most scary detail was the skin coming off. The report said that the outer layers of his skin had started to come off the flesh underneath. This is a common sign of being in water for too long. When the officers moved the body, big pieces of his skin came away, showing the raw, pink flesh below. His fingers, fat and wrinkled, were so full of water that his fingerprints were useless. Swollen and blue, skin coming off already. I turned off the sound on the TV as they talked to his mother, a woman who cried into a microphone, calling her son a good boy. I wondered if she had ever said sorry to my daughter. I wondered if she knew how much horror her son had caused. I felt nothing, only the cold, steady little song of Lily's ghost. Melissa Crane, the quiet helper, the one who had not been mean to Lily herself but had let it happen quietly. She was the one who had sent the screen picture by mistake, showing how bad the meanness was. When people asked her, she always hid behind the same sad excuse. I didn't do anything. But she did. Her quietness was a weapon. Her laughing in the chat was a knife. Her refusal to stand up for Lily was the last crushing weight. Melissa, at 19, worked as a food server at a cheap restaurant on Route 7, a lonely road known for its terrible winters. I would go in, order coffee and watch her. She had the same nervous laugh Lily used to have before the world taught her not to. For a moment, a quick, dangerous moment, I almost felt bad for her. Then I remembered the screen pictures of the chat, her name right there next to the jokes about Lily's body. I decided her death would be the most personal. It would be on Christmas Eve, the 6-year birthday of Lily's death, a day that had become my own private, bloody holiday. The weather was perfect. A heavy, non-stop snowstorm covered the city, turning the road into a slick, dangerous sheet of ice and wet snow. I drove to the restaurant at 11:30 p.m. Melissa was closing up. Her work day was finally over. I got out of my car and walked to her old, beat-up car. I wore thick gloves, so I left no trace. Under her windshield wiper I left a note. It was printed on clean, white paper, covered in plastic to keep it dry from the snow. I know what you did to her. She never stopped hearing your laughing. I went back to my car. It was parked across the street, hidden behind a pile of snow-covered road salt barrels. I waited. Minutes later, Melissa came out. She was wrapped in a cheap winter coat, her head down against the wind. She saw the note. She stopped right where she was, her body stiff. I watched her through the falling snow. She read the note once, then again. Her hands started to shake. The paper moved wildly. She looked around. Her eyes were wide with a fear that finally matched the fear she had helped put on my daughter. She was no longer the quiet helper. She was the one being hunted. The fear was sudden and complete. She did not get into her car. She did not call the police. She just ran. She ran across the empty parking lot straight toward the main road. Her mind was clearly only thinking about escaping, running away from the ghost I had brought up. The road was dark. You could barely see anything. The snow was like a white curtain that blinded you. The truck was a large semi-trailer, carrying wood, going too fast for the bad road. The driver was already having a hard time keeping the truck straight on the icy road. Melissa stepped onto the highway. She was a dark, small shape against the white. The truck's brakes screamed into the snow. It was a sound of metal tearing and desperate rubbing, but it was not soon enough. The hit was not a simple crash. It was a bomb going off. The force of the big truck, along with the speed of the wood it carried, was a total disaster. Melissa's body was not just hit, it was turned into air. The sound was like a loud thunderclap, followed by a sick, wet thwack and a spray of dark, unclear stuff that flew across the snow-covered road. Then nothing but white quiet. The truck driver, a very big man, fell out of his cab and dropped to his knees, screaming. I did not stay to see what happened next. I had seen enough. I just drove home through the storm. The window wipers fought hard against the falling snow. I whispered Lily's name until the glass got foggy from my breath. The police report, which I found later, was the hardest to read. It told about the scene with a cold, clear voice. They could not tell what was left. The body had been broken into hundreds of pieces. The report used the words bones broken and separated, and very bad damage to soft parts of the body. It took the police team 5 days to pick up every piece of her. They had to use small shovels and brushes, looking through the snow and the wet slush, collecting small parts of bone, flesh and clothes. The doctor who checked the body knew who she was from her teeth records, but the remains were so incomplete, so broken that the report said, "Because of the great damage, the remains are not fit to be viewed. A funeral with an open box is not possible." The body smashed everywhere, the final, perfect fair trade. She had tried to make herself unseen in life. I had made her unseen in death. 3 accidents, 3 names wiped out, 3 lives paid for the one they took. And still, I woke up every morning hopping to hear her feet on the stairs, hopping to hear that little tuneless song from the bathroom. The quiet was louder than ever. I thought paying them back would fill the empty space. I thought the bad things I did would be a relief, a letting go of the pressure that had been building for 6 years. But it only made the empty space deeper. Because the truth is, there is no fair trade in sadness. You can make the scales of justice even. You can take 3 lives for one, but the heavy feeling of the loss never leaves your hands. Lily being gone is not made better by Chloe, Evan and Melissa being gone. It is only made worse by the fact that a killer is now in her place. I am a killer. I am a mother who loved her daughter so much she became a bad person. Sometimes I dream I am back in the bathroom holding her. The water is still warm, the blood is still flowing. In the dream I am not trying to save her. I am just holding her, feeling the coldness of her skin, the finality of her choice. Sometimes I think I hear her little song again, soft, forgiving. I know it is only the sound of the wind outside or the noise of the fridge, but I listen anyway. I listen for the ghost of her happiness. And sometimes I think this tape, this telling of my crimes, is the last thing I will ever say before I finally let myself rest. The circle is finished. I have paid the price for living when I should have died. I have one last small habit. I take the 3 small things I saved from the deaths, a small burnt piece of wood from the tanning place, a broken piece of the water scooter's side, and a sharp piece of glass from the truck's broken light. I put them in a line on the table next to my bed, a small, dark statue of my work. I look at the bottle of pills, not the random mix from before, but a carefully chosen, deadly amount of a strong sleep medicine. I will not wake up in a hospital this time. I will not be cursed to live. I lie down, I put the photo of Lily, the one where she is smiling before the dark times came, on my chest. I close my eyes. The sound of the heart machine is gone. The quiet is finally complete.
This tape was found in a locked box that belonged to Margaret Hale, who is dead. The doctor said she died by killing herself, a huge, planned overdose of strong sleep pills. She was found in her bed. Her face looked peaceful. The photo of her daughter was resting on her chest. Next to her body, on the small table, were 3 burnt matchsticks placed in a line. No one was ever charged with a crime for the deaths of Chloe Tanner, Evan Pierce, or Melissa Crane. The official reason: accidents. The files are closed. The cases are cold. The only thing left is this tape. It shows that sometimes, justice is not blind, but simply too dark for the light of the law to touch.